All right, good morning. I'm Aaron Heiser, Maker's Leather Supply, and in this video series, we're going to continue our bag making, and we are going to make the roll top rucksack. So, rucksack is another word for backpack. So this is a backpack. It's made of wax canvas and elk hide. And we are actually going to make the exact same, like we're going to use the same materials in this one, in the one we'll make in the video, as I used in this one right here, because I really like it. I want one of them to be a store display, but I would like one to carry around when I go places. So anyway, hardware for this bag is pretty simple. You've got a zipper here, and a zipper on the top. We have a snap right here. It could be a swivel snap, a trigger snap, any kind of snap, but it just snaps onto that D-ring right there. All right, we have a 1-inch brass buckle right here. That's actually an optional thing, but we'll talk about that when we get to that part of the video. I've used a bunch of rivets to hold some of the straps down. That's pretty much, well, we have the big zipper too. This zipper at the top, it opens both ways, and it's a very sizable bag. This one's full of paper just so it'll hold its form for the video here. But anyway, it's a great bag. I've had a lot of compliments on it. I've had a lot of people that are in the store that just can't wait to make one. And this video is way overdue because I've been selling this pattern for over a month, and I can't stand that I hadn't had time to make this video. So here I am on a Sunday. We're going to get this thing knocked out. All right. So yeah, there it is. Now, the first thing that we're going to do, or I already did, is I took my paper patterns and I glued them to cardboard and made them into basically templates. So they're a lot easier to use, a lot easier to mark around, a lot easier to cut around. If you need information on how to do that, in our very first episode of our bag making series, this is exactly what we did. I showed how I used the 3M spray adhesive, taped the pattern down, and then just cut it out of the cardboard. So we have a back piece. This is leather. We're going to cut all our leather pieces first. The back piece is leather. This piece is called the bottom support, and it's not properly cut out. I forgot to cut a line there. That's out of leather. We need a bottom end strap holder. That's the where the base of your shoulder straps connects to the bottom of the bag. This is called the Anchor D attachment. I've got to punch that little slot right there. But anyway, that's this piece right here. And I also left a little spot on it. And it says this is where I made a patch to put my, my Maker's logo. And I'll do the exact same thing on this one. We've got the pocket zipper pieces that go right here. And then the strap hanger piece that goes on the back, and all these straps attached to it to give it more rigidity than just trying to attach it to the bag. And then also it looks better because the ends of the straps are hidden. So all of that is going to be cut out of this elk leather that I've got in front of me. This stuff is amazing. If you pull this up again, the more you distress it, the more it changes color. Like you see that this is real nice and dark, and this looks all beat up and years old, but it's really not. It actually, the more you play with it and everything, then the more it just looks aged and worn, and it's amazing. We got in like 65 pieces of it, and within a few days, like over half of them sold. So if you want some of this stuff and you're watching this video, you might want to get on the website quick. So anyway, spilled my coffee. That's right. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and cut the leather pieces out, and then we will move on to the large part of the bag, the main body, which is going to be cut out of canvas. All right. So, the first thing when I'm laying out patterns, I always try to lay out my biggest piece first, and then lay out all the other pieces around it, just to make sure I'm going to have room for everything. All right, so I've got the elk that I'm using. It's not one side. It's just a couple of kind of scrap pieces left over from other projects. But they seemed big enough to use for what we need. as long as I don't screw anything up. So I'm going to take my giant back piece here. This wraps around from the bottom of the bag all the way up to the back, all the way up the back side. It's actually what's rubbing against your back while you wear the bag. And I'm going to put it on there. I'm making sure all 4 of my corners and everything in between are still on the leather. And I mean, it's just a barely. There's an 1/8 of an inch here, an 1/8 of an inch here, and maybe a 1/2 inch right there. So I got really lucky that this fit my scrap, making this piece more usable. So I'm going to take a scratch awl. Since this leather is so easy to mark on, I'm just going to take a scratch awl and trace my pattern around. The straps for this bag, all strap work is going to be done out of either a veg tan or a bridle. I hadn't decided yet, but it needs to be something kind of rigid. This elk leather has a good bit of stretch to it, so I don't want to use it for the shoulder straps. Now on the concept bag that I made, the very first one, I did use it to line the shoulder straps just to make a big padded area. So that's the elk leather right there, even though that's a veg tan right there. And we may do that, or we may just talk about how to do that. I hadn't decided yet. We'll see how far we can get on the video, because I need to get this video out. All right, so I got that laid out. Now all I have to do is get one of my trusty cutters that hopefully has a good blade on it, and we're going to cut it out. I'm going to cut out this big piece on camera, but then I'm going to lay out the other pieces on camera, and I'll cut them out without you having to watch me, because there's no use in you watching me for 30 minutes cutting out pieces. Maybe if I was prettier to look at, it would be more fun for you, but I'm not, so it happens. You can easily lay a straight edge up here and run this cutter up against it. I probably should have done that because I'm a little shaky this morning apparently. So look at that, straight edge. And it's going to go a lot faster if you do it that way. So look how fast that was. For you, those of y'all that have missed it and have missed my Facebook posts and stuff about it lately, Tony Allen Bernier was here last week, and he taught us how to make these snazzy little hats. And I've always wanted to learn this hat from him, and I'm super excited that I have. And I've got like 4 of them over there started that, you know, I would love to work on, but I've got to get this video made. JD Sue and I are going on vacation next week. We're pretty excited about it because we don't take many trips other than trade shows, and so I would like a couple of different hats to wear. Anyway, Tony Allen Bernier does have a Etsy page if you like the pattern. He has a YouTube video or 2 on how to make the hat, and he has a pattern available on his Etsy page. It is a pretty cool pattern, and it's actually easier to make than I thought it was going to be. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it is easy. I'm just saying it's easier than I thought it would be. All right, so there's our biggest piece right there. Almost cut out. What are we lacking here? There we go. There's our biggest piece. Now, I will lay out all the rest of these pieces on the scrap left over from the biggest piece. All right, so my strap hanger, a couple of random things there, and then I've got my zipper piece here. All right. Now with the zipper piece, this thing is about 1.25 inches wide. And so as opposed to following this little piece, I'm probably just going to cut me out 1.25 inch strip, and then I'll cut off the ends where they need to be. All right. So I need 2 of these. I need 1 of these. I need 1 of these, and I need 2 of these. So again, I'm going to lay these out and find the best way to get the best yield out of my piece here, because I don't like wasting leather. I know nobody else does either. This stuff's expensive. And yeah, I'm just going to cut them all out. Again, when I get to this one, though, I'm going to cut out 1.25 inch strip. And then when I turn the camera back on, I'll turn the strip into this piece. So I'll pause this so you don't have to watch all this boringness. So while sitting here and cutting out or laying out these pieces, I totally forgot that I didn't even talk about what kind of leather to use for this bag. This waxy elk is about 3 to 4 ounce, which ordinarily I would say is maybe a little bit light for this bag, but it's kind of a dense leather. It's, even though it's thinner, it's pretty. I don't know. It's good stuff. It's got a heavy weight to it, I guess. But I would use anything up to about 6 ounce. That's, you want something that's going to maintain its shape and everything, but yet you don't want it so so thick that it's rigid by any means. But you want something nice and pliable that it's going to look right as a bag. I mean, just imagine what, when you're picking a leather, you look at a leather and you're like, well, yeah, okay, that'll either work or it won't for a bag. I know that doesn't really help, but a lot of these things experience can help you with. I've got people that take our bag patterns and they're like, oh, I'm going to make this out of veg tan. And I'm like, please don't. You won't be happy with it, I promise. I made those mistakes and it wastes a lot of veg tan. So anyway, that's my speech on choosing a leather. We sell a lot of oil tans and stuff that would work great for this. We've got all the bison that we have would work amazingly for this. Of course, the waxy elk's going to work for it because here it is. Yeah, but also kind of step out of your comfort zone. I know, like me, for 15 of the nearly 20 years I've been doing this, I only used veg tan for stuff, and I was afraid of using anything else. And here in the last couple of years, I've been having a lot of fun with everything except veg tan, and I'm really sad that I didn't start that earlier. So again, step out of your comfort zone and use a mildly exotic leather like a bison or something like that. Something fun that when you put that on your product description trying to sell this bag, it's going to increase the value quite a bit as opposed to, oh, it's just cow. It's really not that much more expensive to use something like a bison, a water buffalo, and those kinds of leathers are pretty easy to find. So, you can go super crazy and get elephant, but this would be about a $500, $600, $700, $800 bag to build using that. But anyway, you get my point. I'm going to pause this again to continue cutting these out. All right, so we cut out all of our leather pieces. There's the bottom support piece. We did the big back piece earlier. Here's the anchor attachment. Yeah. The bottom strap holders are right here, and the strap hangers right here. And then, like I said, I cut out a couple of strips to cut the pocket zipper mounting pieces. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a round end punch, and I'm going to cut these down to size. Like I said, they're 1.25 inches wide, so all I had to do was cut out 1.25 inch strip, and now I'm going to take a 1.25 inch round punch here and cut them to size. I realize not everybody has, all the punches and stuff that I have on my desk. They are great tools. They're great time savers and things like that. But I know that they're not in everybody's budgets to have, 6 billion different kinds of punches and stuff. You can very easily just cut around that, you know, using a sharp knife and your template that you've made. But I mean, I've got the tools, so I'm going to use them. I don't have the steady hand that I should have to cut around things like that. So I'll cheat and use my tools. All right, so I also cut out for the other pieces. If you notice, the patterns have rounded corners on all of these pieces. Make sure these are the exact same length. Yep. The patterns have rounded corners on all these pieces, but I cut them out with square corners. Why did I do that? Because I have this handy dandy little craft tool punch from Tandy I bought a couple of years ago, and it's one of my most go-to used tools. It's just a little bit of a corner, and I'm going to set it up there, and I'm going to knock the corners off all these pieces. And one, it was a lot easier to do it this way because cutting out a square is a lot easier than cutting out a square with rounded corners. And two, all of my corners are now going to have, they're going to be symmetrical. They won't look, you know, like one corner's got a different radius than the others or whatever, due to my shaky hands trying to cut them out. I don't remember what I paid for this punch. It couldn't have been that much, but it's worth its weight in gold to me. I use this thing with almost every project, even wallets and stuff like that. One of the last things I do is round all the corners, and I use the heck out of this punch. A lot of my things in my shop that I could go without, but this is not one of them. All right, so there's two pieces where I clip the corners. I got to get this one last one here. There we go. Throw all my scraps on the floor. I can always pick them up later if I need them, as long as I don't step all over them. That's kind of my thing. I make sure not to step on them until I'm done with them and decided that they're trash. Now, all of these also have a little slot cut out of them that I have failed to cut out so far. So what I'll do is I'll measure them and see how big these slots are. And this one's 1.25 inches. This one's 1.5 inches. So I need my 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches slot punches first. And just like a while ago, you don't have to have this fancy punch. You can do the whole punch 2 holes and then cut out the space in between them trick. I did it for years. It worked great. But in an effort to save time, okay, I mismeasured that. That is 1.5 inches. In an effort to save time, I'm going to use the tools at hand. 3/8, 1.5. So I'll cut it first out of my paper template here. And I'm not convinced I want to use 1.5 inches on this one right here. I think I did that just for the symmetry of it all, so that they'd all be the same. But I'm going to make this one just 1 inch. That's going to hold that little D-ring that holds the clip down. I'm going to use a 1-inch clip, so I'm going to use a 1-inch D-ring. You can use any size, don't get me wrong, but that's what I'm going to choose to use. So up here we also have 2 1.5 inch punches, and then 1 1-inch punch. All right, now I'll set my templates back on top of my pieces. I'll get my maul out of your way, and I will mark where those punches go, or just punch through them. Doesn't matter. Either way. If I punch all the way through, I risk really stretching out that slot there, and then that pattern won't be as accurate the next time I need to use it. So that's why I'm choosing to just mark through it and then go back with my go back and just go through the leather itself. Almost done with the oblong punches here. Again, this one has 2 1.5 and 1 1-inch on it. All right, and then with this one also, I need to mark where my little straps are gonna go for my handle. It's just that dotted line on the template, and all I'm gonna do is just, I'll set it up here and use my little stretch awl, and I'll just make some marks at the top of it. And that way I know where my pieces will go, and I know that's really difficult to see. Unfortunately, with these larger projects, the camera's pretty far back. So, all right. So all of those little pieces are cut out. Now it is time to do some skiving. All right. This is the only piece at this point that we're going to worry about skiving. We're going to skive. If you notice, it says skive this area all the way around it. You got about a 1/2 inch margin on the sides and the bottom, and then like a 3/4 inch margin on the top. The top part is going to fold over, and that's why we're going to skive it a little bit further back. In the last bag making video, I talked about hand skiving and everything, but then I also showed off our fancy NP4 skiving machine, and I am going to use that NP4 on this project because, well, I have it. Why not use it? Hand skiving is definitely a skill that everyone should learn. I do know how to do it. I'm not the world's best at it, but I have the machine. So I did forget to do these little strap hangers here, or the pocket zippers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut out my holes on this. Okay, and then I will take and put this over my piece of leather. All right, in the same way, I'm going to mark my holes through it. I never cut the slots out of the template on these bigger pieces because then you just made your template to where it's very fragile. Fragile. Must be Italian. Name that movie. So, I have marked those. I'm going to punch them right quick. All right. I will take a scalpel that hopefully has a sharp blade. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a straight edge up on this. Let me find, there's one of my smaller rulers. You can call it that. I'm going to put the straight edge up on this, and I'm going to cut out those slots in between those hole punches. In doing this, I've talked about this many times in videos before, but I'm going to remind you again, as you're cutting towards this hole, before you get to the hole that's further, you know, the end of the cut, stop, turn around, and go back the other way. Otherwise, your knife's going to get into that hole, and you won't have the restriction on your knife that you had, and you're going to slip across, and you're going to cut too far. It is almost a guarantee, so save yourself the trouble. I stopped just, you know, 1/8 of an inch short, turned it around, cut it back the other way. I'll flip my piece around and I'll do the same thing. I don't think the scalpel's very sharp because I didn't feel it cutting through very well. Yep, it didn't cut all the way through, so I'm going to go back and just follow my same line. And complete that cut. All right. I'm going to do that again, and then I'm going to go skive the edges of this piece right here. When I come back, we will cut out the canvas and start assembly. All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and cut my main body out of canvas. This is yellow. This is actually a wax canvas. I got a little bit of it on a good deal from my canvas supplier. They basically had scraps that they sold me. But to them, a scrap is over a yard, and to me, that's all I need. Anyway, I really like this stuff because unlike the other wax canvases I've seen, it smells like sweet feed. Anybody that's ever dealt with horses, I mean, it's an unmistakable smell. And anyway, I mean, it's not a stink by any means, and it's not so strong that it's bothersome. I just think it's kind of cool that it smells like sweet feed. So here I am, cutting out my pattern out of canvas. You could make this entire bag out of leather if you wanted to, but it would probably be pretty expensive. It'd be a lot of, I mean, this is 4 square feet of leather at least here, so. And I think the contrast of canvas and leather together is kind of nice, so that's why I go for it. All right, so out of a 1 yard piece, I actually ended up with enough to make 2 of these bags. So I'll fold this one and set it aside for later. I'm sure at some point I'll need a gift to give somebody or something, and I'll make them one. So, all right, we're going to wrap this video up because that's all the cutting out that we need to do. And this will be part 1. I will immediately start. I'm going to post this and immediately start on the next part of the video, and we'll start assembling all the little pieces. This bag seems more complicated than, say, the overnight bag, but I think I can build it quicker. I may be wrong. I don't know. I've only built one, and I've built quite a few of the overnight bag already. So anyway, again, I'm Aaron Heiser, Maker's Leather Supply. This is part 1 of making the roll top rucksack, and part 2 will be posted very soon as well. Thanks. Have a great day.